night out right. Panel at the table in that half-dead light. Miss Robin in the middle, calling every shot, directing and producing till the story runs hot. 1-1 from the city, badge heavy on his chest, towing that law like a wicked chain, spitting facts, no rest. Crimes after dark, we close the night out right. Tear through the lies till the wrong sounds like a fight. All of the answers buried so deep out of sight. We watch the threads unravel, we watch the threads ignite. DJ in the corner, state of the deep in his head. Which lies to toss and which ones to keep instead. Dago from the cafe says forget about it, leans back, spins his thoughts like a blade cutting holes in the track. Lee at the front, head advocate, steady stare, every word like a warning, every silence a dare. All of them leaning in, clock crawling, eyes bright. Every secret feels louder than the buzzing of the night. Crimes after dark, we close the night out right. Tear through the lies till the wrong sounds like a fight. All of the answers buried so deep out of sight. We watch the threads unravel, we watch the threads ignite. You can bury it in paper, you can lock it in a file, but the truth bleeds through, drip by drip, tile by tile. We're dragging it to daylight, name by name, line by line. If you wrote it in the shadows, we'll read it out this time. Yeah. Crimes after dark, we close the night out right. Tear through the lies till the wrong sounds like a fight. All of the answers buried so deep out of sight. We watch the threads unravel, we watch the threads ignite.
All right, everybody, welcome to a Crimes After Dark show on a fucking, what is it? Is it like, what is it? What night is it? Is it Saturday night? Oh my God, why do I lose track of days? I totally lose track of days. Welcome to another Crimes After Dark show. Appreciate you coming and joining us. Our loyal fans are here as usual, I'm sure. That seems to be, we have a following that are pretty loyal and dedicated to the show. Good to see you tonight. Thank you, everybody. I see you in the chat. It's great to see those of you who showed up for tonight's show. Let's go ahead and get everybody on at the same time. I feel like my camera's off tonight. What the hell's going on? Anyways, let's get all of our panel guests up here real quick. And we'll hit right at it. How you guys doing this evening?
Okay.
JJ's like, I wasn't ready for that. I was picking my nose.
I'm always ready.
I was born ready.
Born ready.
You guys have any updates of something that was special in your day today as we get this thing kicked off?
No big excitement.
No?
I got my
crazy
wheels
today.
swapped on my car and got an oil change on my car. Just getting
There you go.
and get spring cleaning. That's about the extent
It
of it.
feels like you're a little late. Is April kind of a thing for where you're at in Colorado? The snow hangs around that long that April's kind of a, or
No, we didn't have snow this
Oh.
winter.
Yeah, I just got my tires changed out, but I felt like I was super late. Like I should have done it a month ago. But
we've been
we could get a foot of snow tomorrow. I mean, it
yeah,
snows in the middle of the summer here.
The cold has been killing us on the east, but I think for Robin too. I know she's in Pennsylvania, not too far from me. I think this week coming up, we're finally hitting like 80. Well, in New York, we're hitting around 80 on Wednesday. So
what the hell? What the hell happened in New York one in Grand Central Station with this machete attack or some shit? Like it was funny.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I don't know the specific details, but I just know that someone with a knife started stabbing people, and the guy was shot. I don't know exactly. I don't know who.
So he didn't have a machete. Was it a knife or a machete? I thought he had a machete.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he died.
It was a K-bar knife.
Yeah. Oh shit! Don't even start. Don't even start.
It was a machete.
It was a machete. Yeah, it's funny because New York has always been a place that I imagine what it might be like. But I was there, and Grand Central Station was beautiful, like the marble floors and everything looked like whatever. It just looked beautiful. I was like, it wasn't like I expected. I expected some dirty, nasty subway, and it was actually very pretty and well lit and
stuff. Yeah, they got some nice stuff. But the thing, you blame it on the politicians and the higher ups. They put these, they reformed all these laws and stuff. So these people who, as soon as they commit a robbery, they get caught and they back out, immediately. And it's a revolving door. So
yeah. By the way, Robin, if you haven't done it, make sure you put the link out there for people to join us on stage. Tonight's a great night when we have a lower audience like we have a little bit right now. Perfect. And a lower, not lower audience, more like a lower panel. Like we don't have like 6 people on panel. So that's what I should have said. We got space. We got space for face. Like get your face on camera, or at least get your thumbnail up here because this is a great night to do so. Robin, do you have anything special? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to see if Robin had anything special before we kick off and get. I think. Did you have Robin first? Robin, do you have anything?
Of course I do.
Of course, and you know where I'm going with that.
Yep. Nope. Go right ahead.
All right. So we got a monologue. Did you need to sneak something in, JJ, before the monologue?
No, I was just going to say, New York used to be pretty rough, man. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it used to be.
I'm sure
really
it's always going to have its problems. It's one of the most densely populated cities in the world.
Yeah.
Pre-Giuliani, it was an interesting place.
Yes.
Well, and before we get into the monologue, again, I was so intimidated going to New York. I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, like, am I going to get on a subway and drive? Because I was like, I didn't want to take my car and drive around New York. So I talked myself into taking the, what was it? The Lear, the Long Island Railroad.
Long Island Railroad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to take the Lear in. I guess that's not technically the subway. It's just the Lear. So I'm like, and every part of me was like, oh my God, I'm so out of my element. And then when I got there, I was like, this is not bad. People are people. These are just normal fucking people. There's a lot of them. Like, it's not a big deal. Other than the lady that was yelling at me, hey, you YouTuber, you owe me fucking lunch. I'm like, no, I don't owe you lunch.
No.
You would have been scared in the past.
It's funny that you mentioned. It's funny that you mentioned the Long Island Railroad. So we get the Long Island Railroad, obviously, because it's called Long Island Railroad. It goes all the way out east, to Long Island, and then we also have another, like similar kind of railroad called Metro North that goes up north. Now on the Long Island Railroad and Metro North, you're allowed to drink alcohol on those railroads. You are. You're allowed to. Yeah, this is what's funny.
Rex Heuermann with the beer.
Yeah. Just a simple thing. Just a simple thing shows you like the two, however you want to say, like the 2-tiered system in our society. Yeah. Metro North and the Long Island Railroad. Yeah. Sure, Long Island, where I live, there are areas. Not every area in Long Island is like means you have tons of money and whatever. We have our areas that are not so great, but in general, people go out east. They tend to have more money and whatever. But what's interesting is a Metro North and Long Island Railroad, you're allowed to drink alcohol. But if you take the New York City subway system, you are not allowed to have alcohol.
Well, I see that's funny that yeah, I can imagine the subway system is a little rougher area, I imagine, than the Lear. And again, I mean, I know we got to get into your monologue, but when I saw the picture, I remember you and I had to talk about this. I saw a picture of Rex Heuermann like drinking a beer on the Lear, and I'm like, you can't drink beer in public, and you're like, no, yeah, you actually can, and I'm like, really? Like, I didn't even think you were allowed to do that. So yeah, but
you can,
it's
but
awesome. Yeah,
it's a twisted place now because after before Adams, the last administration, you're not allowed to have alcohol on the subway, New York City subway. But so walking down the street doesn't matter whether you're in Times Square or you're on the East Side or you're in Harlem, wherever you are in Brooklyn. You cannot walk down the street with an open container of alcohol, but you can walk down the street smoking a joint.
and you can ride the Lear drinking a beer. Like I don't get it. Like, so real quick, let's get into your monologue. However, I want to say one more thing. It's a bucket list to get the She-Devil and I out to New York again. So you need to come up with some kind of big profile crime so I can come out there and have a true crime case to follow. Because I need another trip to New York. I need to take the She-Devil out there because she's never been to New York. I don't think. I think she complained about me not taking her to New York last time. She's like, I can't believe you're going to New York without me. And I'm like, okay, next time we're going to time it. We're going to go watch Les Miserables at Broadway, and we're going to do some true crime shit. So that's on the bucket list.
So
let's get you
all
going.
Right. So I will answer it. So Lisa, I absolutely did not stop smoking cigars. The thing is I do not smoke inside my house. So right now I'm inside my house. I don't smoke inside. But no, the cigars, I have an extensive collection of cigars, so that is not stopping. Is it good to be alive in the den on a Saturday night?
Yeah.
Jackson, Juliana, my beautiful wife. Love you guys always and forever. There's a moment right before something breaks where everything feels just slightly off. Not loud enough to sound an alarm, not obvious enough to stop you, but just enough to make you wonder if what you're looking at is actually real. It's in the hesitation, the pause between words, the detail that doesn't quite fit, the timeline that almost makes sense, but not completely. Most people ignore that feeling. They trust the headline, they trust the narrative, they trust that someone, somewhere, has already done the hard work and found the truth for them. But what if they didn't? What if the story you've been given was never meant to hold up under pressure? What if the answers only exist for the people willing to question everything? That's where we step in. Welcome to Devil's Advocates, a place where the conversation doesn't follow the script, where the narrative doesn't get a free pass, and where every version of the truth has to earn its place. Because here, we don't just listen to the story, we take it apart, piece by piece, frame by frame, word by word. We sit in the discomfort. We ask the questions people avoid, and we stay there long enough to see what starts to unravel. And at the center of it all, Boss Lee, the one holding the line when everything starts to drift. Not loud for the sake of it, not reactive, calculated, patient, precise. Lee doesn't chase noise, he studies it. He lets the conversation breathe, lets the chaos reveal itself. And then he cuts straight through it, because leadership here isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing which questions change everything. Then there's JJ, State of the Deep, where most people see a story. JJ sees structure, a system, a pattern waiting to be exposed. Timelines get rebuilt. Statements get cross-checked. Details get pulled apart until what looks solid starts to shift. JJ doesn't just go deep, he stays there long enough to find the connections that weren't supposed to be found. And once he lays it out, you don't just hear the case differently, you see it differently. Robin, queen on the scene, where instinct meets awareness, because not everything shows up in the documents or reports or official timelines. Some things live in behavior, in tone, in presence, in the moments people think no one is paying attention. Robin reads those moments. She catches the shift in energy, the hesitation in a voice, the reaction that doesn't match the situation, because sometimes the biggest clue in the room is the one no one thought to question. And then, 1-1 King of the Clips. If it was said, if it was recorded, if it happened even for a second, 1-1 has it. But it's not just about having the footage. It's about what happens when you slow it down, when you replay it, when you strip away the noise and let the moment speak for itself. Because the truth doesn't always disappear. Sometimes it just moves too fast the first time. And finally, Dago True Crime Cafe. The perspective that resets the room, calm when things get chaotic, focused when things get messy. Dago doesn't get pulled into the noise, he filters it. He steps back, recenters the conversation, and asks a question that cuts deeper than all of the rest. What are we not seeing yet? 5 voices, 5 angles, 5 different ways of looking at the same story, until the story can't hide anymore. Because this isn't about agreeing, it's not about comfort, it's not about easy conclusions or clean endings. It's about pressure, applied slowly, intentionally, until the cracks start to show. And when they do, we don't look away, we stay with it, we follow it, we push it as far as it will go. Because somewhere between the official version and the unanswered questions, there's a space where the truth either survives or falls apart completely. So tonight, as you listen, don't just hear the story, watch it, question it, pull it apart with us. Because by the time this is over, you might not just see things differently. You might start to realize how much was never what it seemed in the first place. This is Devil's Advocates. And with that, live from New York, it's Saturday night.
All right. Thank you so much for that. People apparently think they're going to name drop your name if they get pulled over in New York. The person Captain 1-1 probably isn't going to fly, but hey, you know what? It's all good, because 1-1's incognito. We protect his identity a little because look, we want to make sure that you're aware he does not represent NYPD. So we've done that on purpose to make sure that there's no question that he's not on here trying to represent NYPD's position. So it's kind of funny though, because it's one of those things people are like, I'm a friend of 1-1. I'm like, they're gonna be like, who the fuck's that guy? It is what it is. I wanted to talk real briefly about CrimeCon 2026, which is coming up, because I just got a notification in the mail, and I'm trying to remove this from the screen so I can add this to the screen. What the fuck, man? Look who the featured. Wow. The features, this just came in my email. Featured speakers at CrimeCon this year. Now, last year we had Kristen Middleman. Now we have David and Kristen Middleman, the power couple from Othram Labs. We solved Idaho 4. Steve Gonzalez, Christy Gonzalez is going to share the stage with them and talk about how YouTube that we're armchair detectives that should basically shut the fuck up and quit shaming the families. That is going to be all about what's CrimeCon is going to be about. Now, before you say, well, why the hell would I go to that shit show? You should come out. You should come out to Las Vegas and be part of this, because this is going to be a thing. We've got crazy stuff that you want to see it for yourself. Nobody should be making a disruption. That's not what I'm encouraging you to do. But I'm saying is the narrative shaping around Idaho 4 is at an all-time high. Now, David and Kristen Middleman are going to make their worldwide tour about how they broke Idaho 4 and they solved it, even though the DNA evidence was fucking bullshit in Idaho 4. It was never going to be presented presented at trial. They even said that we have no intention of showing the DNA evidence at trial because we have enough circumstantial evidence. And no, they didn't. No, they fucking didn't have enough circumstantial evidence, but they wanted to make you believe it. And so these people are still gonna go on the fucking center stage at Las Vegas in front of thousands of people and get a cheering, rounding ovation because they caught Brian Koberger, and they fucking did not. They did not catch Brian Koberger. They didn't develop.
No.
They developed it to 4 brothers who were not related to the Kobergers, and the FBI told them to stop their investigation, and the FBI took over. The fucking Othram Labs didn't do dick, and yet here they are, front and center, with Stephen Christie Gonzalez talking about Idaho 4 like they fucking did something. They didn't even do anything. Why is this a thing? Why am I the only person a little pissed off about it? It's ridiculous.
And that I'd love to ask them too. Isn't there something about that the DNA that you want to test has to be a certain amount? It has to be a certain size for it to even.
For CODIS,
it was not.
Right, for CODIS,
right?
They didn't even have the. They didn't even have the minimum to submit to CODIS.
That's
so how
what
the fuck are they going to develop a bigger profile?
Right. So
it's a joke.
They did fuckery in the beginning just to, I guess, improve, just to make the sample size bigger or whatever the hell whatever process, whatever they did with it. It's ridiculous.
I wish we had the clip. Ann Taylor, you guys, doubled the size of the snip, and we don't know how you did it. And they literally are like, we're not going to tell you how we did it. It's law enforcement secrets. Like,
trust me, bro.
You do have to tell the defense.
Yes.
A defendant has the right to see the evidence against him. You have to tell the fucking defense how you developed him as place. And look, oh my God, I'm on fire.
That's like I think that's probably the major Brady violation from the start, right?
Right.
I mean,
Brady and Giglio violations.
Number one. I mean,
yes.
Right.
They
it's like, the sample. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is Koberger. It's Koberger. But the size
most
is
people
so
in
small.
America bought it. Most people in America bought it. To this day, I have people telling me, well, his DNA was at the crime scene. Listen to Brian Thompson. We can't place Brian Koberger in the house. If his DNA was in the house, they absolutely could place him in the house. But what did they say at the sentencing? We can't place Brian Koberger in the house. It's a joke. The whole thing's a joke.
Dude, you're getting your cases mixed up again. You said Brian Thompson.
Did I say Brian Thompson? No, I didn't say Brian Thompson.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Brian Koberger. Oh my God. I haven't even talked about Luigi Mangioni's case for the longest time. How did I get Brian Thompson mixed up?
Well, again, when we were there last year, I immediately, I knew nothing about Othram Labs, and we were at their presentation. You and I both reacted the same way. I was immediately suspicious, and I was like, what is going on here? This isn't like a discussion about different things. This is a pitch. This is a PR.
It was a total pitch. It was a total pitch. And
it was
you
a
and I didn't even know
it was
each other.
a PR meeting is basically what it was, with a bunch of people in the crowd throwing softballs to them. And it's like, look, man, I trust my gut. I've gotten to the point in life where I believe that you should trust your gut. And I will bet you, if you look into them, just like, by the way, DA, I wasn't able to send it to you on Discord, but as I suspected, Scott Green, take a wild guess what his background was.
Scott Green's?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Global finance.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which I contend, and people can challenge me if they like and debate me on it, that most universities now and politicians at high levels come from the finance industry, which to me is very suspicious.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out on a limb that, obviously, like, Scott Green was also law. He studied law. He went to Harvard.
Yeah.
He started at Harvard. And so this is like my biggest thing that I think I can ever get across to people. Don't look into what you're being told. Like, oh, look at this evidence. Oh, I'm going to look into this evidence. Look at the players in any case or any type of high profile event. Don't be told what to look for. You go by yourself and you look into the players, because I think that's a really important thing. Is where are these people coming from? What's their background? Because fuckery doesn't appear out of nowhere. There's usually a path that can be followed with people that are involved.
What bothers me, I mean, to digress back to CrimeCon for a second, what bothers me is I submitted a request, and I realize I'm not a big YouTube channel, but I submitted a request to be a speaker at, or at least have a spot at CrimeCon, and they won't even acknowledge my existence. And it sucks because they literally are going to present no alternative ideas. It's like, we caught Brian Koberger. Here's the people that did it. A round of applause and amazing. And of course, they're going to build on the sympathy of the family that's up there. I lost my daughter. Everybody's going to feel sympathy, and I get it. It's like an emotional thing. But nobody gets to step up and question, like, hey, what about the other side of the equation? What if it wasn't like you guys said? No, nobody gets to present that. It's just this one-sided shit show.
And all the questions will be softballs. Like, for example, if Steve G is up there, I would like to ask him, which there's no way I'll get a chance to, Steve, in the beginning of this case, you were very angry that your speech was being infringed upon.
Yes.
That you were not allowed to speak.
Yes.
I believe he even mentioned, he might have mentioned the First Amendment, but he definitely mentioned free speech.
Yeah.
And now he is the one, and his family are the ones that are trying to limit the First Amendment.
Yeah.
By what the public is,
it does seem a little
freedom
bit like
of the press.
Right.
Not allowing citizens to see crime scene stuff and more detailed information is an infringement on the First Amendment. Now, it's a bigger picture, and that's why I will never back. In my opinion, this was an operation, and it's being used to forward the agendas that I talk about ad nauseum.
And and a simple thing, I mean, obviously, like, feel obviously horrible for the families or whatever, but like, Steve G, I'm sure, if he somehow actually wanted to ask Lee a question, or he saw you guys there, like, the simple thing is just like, tell us, okay, yes, we know, we all saw the plea thing. BK pled guilty, right? Okay, so without going, there are plenty of people who have pled guilty who were not guilty, but besides going down that whole rabbit hole, just since you guys obviously you have the full autopsy report and whatever else you have, just show us something that proves that BK did it, because you guys saying that we're not conspiracy theorists. We're going by the documents. We're going by the evidence that's there. If I see a video, if you're telling me at such and such time in the probable cause affidavit, Brian Koberger's car is here at this time. Oh, but he doesn't have fog lights. Like,
I honestly would freaking give my right arm to have a sit down conversation with them in private, not on camera, not in front of a big stage where it's all a fucking big shit show and for show kind of thing. Like, I just want to have a heart to heart talk with the people. I hope that there's an opportunity for that. I will say this, in case anybody that watches and knows the Gonzalez's, I'm not going to approach the Gonzalez's at CrimeCon, so they don't need to worry about me coming up and making a scene and getting in their face. I'm not that kind of guy. But if they were to approach me, other than I might be a little bit nervous if I see Steve Gonzalez charging towards me, I might be expected to get punched in the face. But if I get approached, I'm going to be very receptive of that conversation, and I'm not going to disrespect them and approach them. But I would love to have the opportunity to have a conversation with them, and I don't think it'll happen. I really don't think it'll happen, but just want everybody to know that as far as I'm concerned, I would love to have that conversation, and I don't think it needs to be a shit show. And if they wanted to take that opportunity and they see me walking around and on the floor and they recognize me and they want to talk to me, there'll be no fucking issues. Like I won't cause any issues with them. I will listen to them, and we'll try to find a way to have a conversation outside of fucking, the public eye kind of thing.
Well, I mean, you mentioned, I think it was you, DA, that mentioned this in the last few days or whatever. At a certain point, they could have been approached, and if you believe what I believe about this case, and told, look, this is you stand to benefit from your loss. I mean, it's not a good way to have to benefit from things, but this is where you're at, and if you follow this, path, there's lawsuits, there's all these different things. And so people, not everybody, but look, you've got two people related to victims that are profiting, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Big time. So forget about a conspiratorial, bent on that. But just in general, if narratives are to be pushed and certain people who are in the periphery might not necessarily want to go along with those narratives, I'm sure with all the money that's behind all this surveillance technology and DNA and all the rest of it, people are human, right? It's like, look, nothing's going to bring back my loved ones. And so if I have an opportunity that's being offered to me, I'm not pursuing it, then, maybe it's a way of rationalizing, well, there's nothing wrong with that. So, that's not a conspiratorial thing. That's just life. Like there's entities around the case.
But I don't think that would work on everyone. I mean, I know unless you're in the position and it's there, it's hard to say what you would do or not do. But some people cannot be bought, no matter. It doesn't matter what you offer them. Offer them some people, they can't. Unfortunately, what you're saying, it's not. Many people do have a price, and that's absolutely true. Unfortunately, which is sad in our.
society. I like for example, with regards to other people in the periphery, another family, right? Yes, there are different types of people that respond to critical moments where you could go in very different directions very differently. And Amanda has posted it many times that a certain family had some questionable things that they were connected to, right? So you have to look at things for what they are. If people are more inclined to capitalize on things and maybe are not as scrupulous as some, they're going to do that. Just look at these surveillance technologies. I could never work for a company that was pushing to infringe on people's rights, no matter how much they paid me. I could never do it. That's why I was never cut out for the corporate world, because you have to make compromises. I did it when I was very young. I had a high paying job for a big company when I was really young, but I was naive. I didn't know the game.
And then they found out you were CIA, and
and that put the kibosh to that.
They probably pushed me to that. But I couldn't go along with some of the screwed up stuff that I was seeing going on with people above me. And so I was like, whoa, man, this environment is not for me. And I never worked in a big corporate environment like that ever again.
Marty McFlizzle needs to tell me something crazy. Please fucking do. That would be great. I do want to ask you why we're waiting for this something. Tell me something crazy. Make sure the mods pin that when it comes in. I do want to say, do we make anything of the? It seems. Look, last year Othram Labs was featured at CrimeCon, and the Chapins were there, but not the Gonzalveses. This year, Othram Labs is featured again, and the Gonzalveses are featured, and not the Chapins. Does it seem to anybody but me that these two families tend to avoid each other at public events now? They don't ever do anything together. They're not in the same documentaries.
No.
They don't share the same stage. What's the story between those families? You would think they share a common bond, but it seems like those families don't want to intermingle with each other. And again, last year was the Chapin family's opportunity to go with Othram, and this year it's the Gonzalveses. Why didn't they just make a super show and have both of them on stage? But it seems like they don't want to share the stage together, and I find that interesting.
Yeah.
From the founding of America until the first day of this year, the 26th, is 91,126 days. Okay.
So 91126.
Yeah. So we have some numerology. It looks like we're going in here.
Marty McFlizzle. Yeah, your name is making me is reminding me of Back to the Future. You know,
right? Marty McFly.
Yeah,
McFly. I'm trying to get. It feels like this is a numerology question, and then 9/11. I can see that the 26. So until the first day of this year or 26. So 2026. So it sounds like. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you're doing a little numerology with the 9/11 mixed in with 26, the year 26. And if that's the case, I don't know what to say about that. Like I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm not entirely dismissive of numbers being important in events. I think. I don't want to go crazy conspiracy because that's a Friday night fucking thing. And this is Saturday night. We don't do crazy conspiracy on Saturday night. But I think that I think that I have seen numbers appear in news stories enough that I see trends in numbers, and so I think it's a thing. But if that's a big numerology thing, I think that I tend to gravitate a little away from everything because like you can almost make a numerology issue on everything. So not sure if I'm 100% with you on it or not. But thanks for sharing that. Make sure that I'm right. Like if I missed the point of why that's important, the number 91126. I'm assuming it's a mashup of 9/11 and 26. But if it's not, and I missed the fucking point, please educate me. Any other? By the way, we have an open invitation to come up and join us on screen. If you want to come up and have a conversation with us, tonight is a great night to do so. We have no super script going on. Again, I do want to say I want to talk about the CrimeCon situation again a little bit because JJ and I were talking about this a little bit. I get it. Like even JJ was like, really, I don't have a super interest in going to CrimeCon. It's a pro law enforcement event. And it is. It's very mainstream media, Court TV's on there, and Banfield and everybody's on there, all the big names, you'll see an Enton, you'll see Court TV, you'll see all mainstream media on there. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a mainstream media love fest. There's not.
Yeah.
I think at the last CrimeCon, JJ and I think we were both out there. Maybe we weren't both there, but I think we attended a session where there was one really good session where they were talking about a wrongful conviction. And I don't remember if JJ, were you there?
No, no, because remember,
really
I only went for one day and one night.
Yeah.
And the day that I was there, for people who don't remember this thing we've talked about before, you and I went to the Othram Labs thing. It was a massive line. Remember how long the line was to get into that? It was the big ballroom.
Yeah.
And then we ended up talking for hours after that. And we blew off going to some of the other events, remember? And that's when we drove to the Aurora to the theater.
Yeah. Ooh, we got an echo going on. Somebody's
I hear that.
Someone's mic is picking up on that probably. But so I didn't go to anything besides the Othram thing, and you and I ended up, and Penny was there, and we ended up just chatting about stuff and just talking about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I am pro law enforcement.
Yeah.
I'm just not pro mainstream narrative.
That's good to know.
That's good to know, yeah.
I mean, I am. Like, I just was talking to my friend like an hour ago who was the state trooper. He was a state trooper and a federal corrections officer at the Supermax. Like the Supermax. So, and he's like family. So like a lot of my friends are law enforcement, like a lot. So I'm pro law enforcement. I know you didn't mean it that way, DA. I know what you were getting at.
Yeah, right.
I'm just
right. Yeah, no, I'm not anti. I'm not anti law enforcement either. We wouldn't have somebody in NYPD on the thing if I was anti law enforcement, and he wouldn't appreciate me if I was. I'm not. I mean, we've always said like. Even good cops don't like bad cops, right? So it's not.
That's why I'm here.
Right, exactly. It's like I totally think that policing is a great thing, and I think when you have good cops there, that I would want a good cop every day of the week and twice on Sunday to come, help me and whatever. So good cops are great, but not all cops are good, and it's the bad one. Would like to see some reform, and get some people that are good. So, and by the way, Chihuahuas and Crimes talking about you need to do a YouTube CrimeCon event. I'm going to be, my intent is to stream from CrimeCon. I am planning on doing the Crimes After Dark from CrimeCon. It's a little tricky because sometimes the days go late and we have a VIP pass sort of, and we might get invited to a drink social. We'll have to figure that out. But I do plan on doing Crimes After Dark from CrimeCon. And so we do plan on doing that.
Well, you got to hit up the Custody Queens and Ron and plan a co-stream.
I need to make sure they're there. They told me they were last I talked to the Custody Queens, they said they were 90% sure they were going. It was going to be Kristen and Sam and Ron from the Custody Queens. They were going to be there. Last I heard, Ali Benevento, who's been on our show multiple times, she was going to be there with the Court TV cast, Vinnie Politan and stuff like that. So I've got friends who are kind of in the big stream media that are telling me, hey, we're going to go there. We should meet up, have a drink, let's do lunch, whatever kind of thing. So it should be cool. It should be very cool.
Yeah, that would be great.
And the comment, the whole law enforcement thing it's like they're just like people. There are good people and there are people that aren't so good. And any profession, any job, right? I'm sure a lot of people in any profession would not compromise their integrity. And in fact, I would argue that it's the smaller percentage of the bad that tarnish things for the good people.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the worst part about it, right? Because we don't rail against people who are doing the right thing. We rail against the people who are doing the wrong thing. So we spend all our time pointing out all the fuckery in law enforcement and all things that went wrong because we're so angry about it. And I think in a way, the irony is, in a way, it shows our respect for law enforcement because we expect you to be the good guys. So when you're not, it really pisses us off. Like, you're supposed to be the good guys. Why are you fucking just as much of a douchebag as everybody else if you're supposed to be the good guys? So,
Well, systems, like I always say, I know I've said this before. It's the system. It's not any human. Look, let's just say I got a job for a big corporation. It was a high paying job, a couple of $100 G's a year or more. It's human nature to not rail against the thing that you're benefiting from. Yeah. Right. Like, people could be good people, but people do make compromises. It's just human nature. So you get into imagine you work for years to become an executive at a big corporation. And now you've got all the benefits of being in that position. You have cachet. It's a high status position. It's a high income position. And you have a lot of financial freedom. And you have your retirement and good investments and all that. Most people are not going to turn on that because they think that organization is doing unscrupulous things. Right. It's just not the way human nature works. Right. So some people, they're not actively being nefarious. They just may overlook some of the things that organization is doing, or they're not even aware of it.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
it's just, my ex, I've talked about it, worked for a massive, massive corporation, and she was 25 plus years with them at a pretty high position.
Yeah.
She wasn't aware of a lot of the fuckery that goes on because she just was too busy working crazy hours and crazy amounts of responsibility to dig into things. I think I shocked her a little bit when I exposed her to some information. It was probably, she's probably like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
So, a question came up here about whether or not we talked about the Rex Heuermann guilty plea. I know we're talking Idaho 4, but I want to address the chat when it comes in. Yeah, we talked at length about this yesterday. In fact, we even played clips from Heuermann in the courtroom, kind of denoting his facial expressions and whether or not he felt like that. Well, it kind of felt like he had a smug view on his face, almost like he was kind of pleased with himself for it. So yes, we did talk about the Rex Heuermann case. I think do you know when the sentencing is? Because that was the plea. When is the sentencing and victim impact statement?
It's in June.
June.
I don't remember the exact date, but it's June. But and I did put a link back.
Yeah, I saw that.
You. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff here, and you should be able to pull that up.
Oops, let's remove this.
I did not know. Is it going to let you do it?
Yeah, just give me a second. I got to get my collective shit together. So Gilgo Beach, Rex Heuermann, guilty plea answers crucial questions while raising new ones. Okay, what did you see? I haven't read this article, so yeah.
Okay, well, I just read it a little while ago. They apparently this has kind of been in the works since like last September, off and on.
Yeah.
So that's a lot longer than what anyone even knew.
Yeah, there it is.
I thought it was just like a relatively like in the last couple of months, but apparently they've been in talks since last year about a guilty plea.
Right. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney said the defense first approached the prosecution about a guilty plea after they issued his September 3rd decision allowing nuclear. So yeah, that was a long time ago. And it feels like it's around the time Tierney said, we're not going to talk about a guilty plea. So how interesting it is that they were talking about the guilty plea while he's telling people in public they're not even going to entertain a guilty plea. It seems like, I don't know if that was what the timing was on that, but it all came together rather quickly. It says, Michael Brown, here's his attorney from Ice. Is it Islip? It's Islip, right? I need to say it.
Islip. You said it right.
Yeah.
I used to say Islip, and they're like, you uneducated, non-East Coast motherfucker. It's Islip. All right. So, anyways, what else? Yeah. Was there anything else? There's Ray Tierney on the screen there, King for a Day deal.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was a King for a Day deal. I didn't, So there's a few interesting things. The most interesting thing is, like you said, the timing of it. That he's saying at right about that time, hey, we're not gonna, we're not even entertaining that idea. But that's one way of keeping it under wraps. So
let's talk about the King for a Day deal. So a King for a
June
Day
17th.
Yeah. So the King for the Day deal is basically the idea that you can confess to a crime with immunity from that crime. So basically what he's saying is Rex Heuermann offered up additional confession to a murder with the understanding that he won't be charged with that murder. So it's one of those, like, if you just want to know what happened, I'll confess to it, but you can't charge me with the death because, you would have had nothing if I shut my mouth, but I'm going to give you something. It's kind of a weird deal. So. Yeah, and that was this one, Karen Vergata. Karen Vergata was the name that he was originally not on trial for, that they suspected him of, but that he wasn't going to be charged with her, and he agreed as part of his plea deal to confess to the murder of Karen Vergata, but in exchange they can't charge him with the murder.
That's gotta be brutal for the family.
Is it though? Like, that's the thing. Like, is it though? I mean, the family has long dealt with the death, right?
Yeah, so I'm just saying. I mean, he's gonna get like a lifelong prison, but it's just like to make a deal on the victim that has to do with your family, and it's like, you know, it's just tough, I would think.
Here's interesting. Do you see this headline? Heuermann says he only killed 8. Now, there are people who believe that Heuermann's been killing in multiple states for 30 or 40 years. Well, 30 years probably at least. And his death count may be in the hundreds.
Yeah, it's
and
a
yet
lie.
They're making a statement. Heuermann says he only killed 8, and here's the 8 he killed.
I don't think that's true.
I
and
find that
Tierney is being very Tierney's being very cryptic, because he said it within the state, you know, they'll cooperate if there's other investigations into, if they want to, you know, because within the state of New York, they will share his DNA. Now, other states, no, they don't do that
until it intertwines with Suffolk County PD.
Right.
It does lead to the question. It leads to the $1 million question. What's the point? What's the point of convicting him of another 12 murders, for example, when life in prison without the possibility of parole is still life in prison without possibility? Like, you're not tacking anything extra on him. It's all completely for bookkeeping. So what is the,
I mean, I guess well, I mean,
benefit.
The families that, I mean, any, you know, I mean, I guess at the same time,
I would want to be able to recover my loved one.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
closure.
not even just, but to be able to bury my loved one, if we can retrieve my loved one, you know, I would love to know where they are and be able to bring them home. And
but that only goes under the idea that he's going to tell you where the body's at. Like,
well,
he confessed to the murder without telling where the body's at doesn't do you a whole lot.
Right.
But that's a pretty big thing. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. If they've already recovered bodies and they tie them to him and they can identify these people, I mean, that's going to at least give some people the ability to bury their loved one. You know, closure is a whole illusion a lot of times, but for some people. But at least if they could bring them home and know what happened to their loved one, you know, sometimes not knowing is worse than knowing. It just depends.
I think that there's probably some serial killers that want to claim things, and just like anything else, is different types, and some.
You're right.
They probably have their reasons why they don't want to give up any more than they have to.
Yeah.
Because think about it. It's like there might be. He does. I mean, he does. I don't know that much about the guy. He doesn't strike me as that much of a dramatic type of a guy. Like Ted Bundy was really dramatic.
Yeah.
And he liked being flamboyant and getting attention. And I would imagine that Heuermann may not be that kind of guy.
No, but he could have had he's a different personality, you know, when he's in that mode, he's some way. And I mean, there's some interviews we've seen, you know, he seemed like he was a nice person with talking about architecture and whatever in the office, you know, but he obviously has a dark side to him there. What I would also say, you know, it's very highly likely that he's intertwined there, you know, whether it's with Burke or with other, God knows what officials, you know, you're talking about, you know, Shannon, you know, she wasn't just like on the street, like hooker, like she worked for like a company, you know, and and she came when she came, like they would bring like cocaine, and like she was going to higher end,
it was
parties.
expensive.
So if Burke was there, you're talking about someone that's very high in the chain in a police department, who, you know, I'm sure there are other prominent officials or other people of note that were attending this. So you know, I don't know. I don't think Rex would so easily, you know, this is where like some, you know, blackmail or other, you know, he may never say anything that would put them in jeopardy, because they could, you know, I'm sure there's something, you know, maybe they say they come after his family, or, you know, Who knows?
Oh, I totally agree. I've said that before. I've said because he might be. They may have told him, "Look, you can give up a little, but don't be dropping the dime on and providing information that's going to come down on law enforcement." So I agree with that. 100%.
And if he started to do that, started to do that, that's when you'll see the cameras go blind and 2 minutes missing in his cell, and all of a sudden Rex is gone.
They could have told him that.
Right? Yeah. And another reason he may not want to admit to any other murders, like John Doe, who was pretty much a transsexual person. He may not want that known in prison that he had that side to him, because that might cause him problems. So he has not been tied to that yet. So but there are still Ray Tierney again has been cryptic about ongoing investigations in the state. So
my big thing with Rex, I don't think we have any argument as to, I mean, and he just, I know, pled whatever guilty. I don't think that any of us have any argument whether Rex did any of these heinous crimes, right? I think we all think he's pretty much a monster. It's not like a Koberger or other cases. But my big thing with the case is about his wife and his daughter, like, at least his wife. I know when he started this, his daughter was like young. Did his wife?
Yeah, she was like
know what was going on, like that, I think. Yeah. Did his wife help? Was she? Did she just let him fill his oats? Like, I don't know.
Look, I mean, you're married to somebody. You have to know a little bit about their freaky side, unless you're blind and you just don't pay attention. But I'm not to say that it's absolute, because a lot of people overlook things that they see or they choose not to acknowledge, like in Bundy's case, right?
Right.
The woman he was with sensed things, but at the time she sort of chose to overlook them. Did you guys ever read that book? It was about the woman who had worked. Was it Anne Rule that worked with Bundy at one point? You know what I'm talking about? Maybe it was Anne Rule.
It may have been. Yeah, I don't remember.
He does. Yeah.
And so, like, she was like enamored with Bundy. She said everything short of that she was in love with the guy in that book. And it's like a lot, you have your public persona and then your private persona.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that are psychopaths that, look at John Wayne Gacy. He's a perfect example. Oh, he's an upstanding member of the community. He was involved with the community and so on and so forth. It's like, you just don't know when you're dealing with a psychopath what somebody is capable of. I mean, Bundy went to law school. Rex Heuermann, successful career. That just goes to show, man. It doesn't. People look at some people in high places and don't consider the fact that some of them could be psychopaths and probably are.
And I agree with you too. I find it hard to believe that someone could be some kind of, be involved in it. It's the same thing as like some of these people who are involved in, some kind of bomb making thing or something, and they keep half of the ingredients in the garage, and then they interview, the family members, and they're like, you didn't notice, all these different things in the garage, like that. So I get what you're saying. With Asa there, I just wonder, like, if she actually, because the guy, he had a dungeon, right? And his super gun soundproof safe that he built in his basement.
Which everything was apparently locked up, and she was not allowed in there. But That to me
claims.
is odd.
Right.
Now, the only excuse I can see working is if he said, I'm locking this up because of the kids. I don't want them getting into the guns. Now that would be a reasonable thing. But if he expressly says to her, you are not allowed in there. I don't want you in there at all as my spouse. You're not allowed to go in this room. That's kind of weird.
I've been trying to get any other little info I can. Is my brother is actually friends with a girl who lived next door to Rex.
Oh wow!
And apparently, he's told me that her father, so his friend's father, actually went golfing with Rex and never.
Oh wow!
Never like had any idea.
How weird would that? How weird would that be?
And look at politicians, man. It's like they're golfing, they're going out to these fancy dinners, it's just you just
we have a guest.
You don't know. You guys that
US Claire,
US Claire.
Recent documentary we talked about the Mariah, was it Wilson? Mariah Wilson or Williams?
Hang in there, Claire.
Netflix. Remember what was the name of that? Was it Mariah Wilson?
I just watched that. Yeah, I just watched the bicyclist, the
yes
gravel rider. Yeah.
Look at
Mariah
the guy, the bicycle racer, the top bicycle racer. He had no clue about his girlfriend that he had lived with.
Yeah.
That she was a psychopath. For a woman to plan that out.
Yeah.
And carry that out very, it was pretty methodical what she did. She waited for the right time. Right. She drove around.
Circled the residence. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she gets plastic surgery and then, leaves the country. I mean, she literally got plastic surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, and that guy had no clue. He was living with her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a guest, guys.
Yeah, let's get US Claire to come say hi to us. US Claire, what's going on?
Hello.
It's going good. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
We hear you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Claire.
Hello.
When I wanted to come on, I wanted to touch on one person, and you touched on that person, but at first, like when I wanted to come up, I wanted to talk about like sociopaths and narcissistic personality disorders. So especially with the true crime atmosphere, like you come across a lot of narcissists, like people at least like personality personality traits that are associated of like narcissistic personality disorder, whether or not they are diagnosed with it or not, and like borderline sociopaths and all that. So I was born and raised in South Florida. I spent the first 14 years of my life in South Florida. I heard that JJ lived in South Florida for a little bit, so I'm sure he can understand where I'm coming from when I say this, because he's was immersed in that atmosphere. So in South Florida, like you are immersed with a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of most people kind of like are pretending to be who they're not, and like practical, also like borderline like sociopaths and narcissists, but not exactly diagnosed. And from 14 to 19, I lived in North Florida, and as I've said in the past, I was in the military, so I spent like 4 years in Texas, and then not 4 years, 4 months in Texas, and like 3.5 years in Vegas, and now I'm in the Midwest. So I have, especially within the military, I have been around a lot of people who have who are from a lot, like so many different places and a lot of like walks of life around the country. So I have seen and heard a lot of things. So especially with like the Idaho 4 and Rex Heuermann, I like see a lot of like similarities with the people that I've worked with. Some people that I've worked with certain people that are like within like the Idaho have been directly affected. I don't want to say names, but I'm sure who I'm talking about, and also Rex Heuermann.
Yeah.
And it was I watched. I was part of the replay crew yesterday with like the Rex Heuermann video.
Yeah.
And
Thank
smirking
you.
and all that. So it's
Yeah.
just like
Good stuff.
and so it's like like for me, like how I see it is that a lot of like, at least with like narcissism and people who have traits with narcissistic personality disorder, I got to be very careful with how I word this because I don't want to put a clinical like disorder onto someone who I don't know who is diagnosed with that disorder. He like seems, at least with what I've seen, like likes to be like have some kind of power with certain things,
Yeah.
And when I don't mind explaining this to the panel privately, but I don't really feel comfortable with saying it like on a live, but one person separates me from Ted Bundy, so
Oh yeah.
yeah, and again, I don't mind explaining this privately, but because of the one person separating me from, and I know this person private through one of my parents, because that one of my parents knew them very well as a parental figure. So because of that, I was very interested with Ted Bundy in his case. And so a lot of people have like compared Brian Koberger with Ted Bundy, but there's a massive difference with Brian Koberger
Yeah.
and Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy loved the spotlight.
Yeah.
Brian Koberger was like very just with himself and kept to himself, and just his goal, like he said to his public defender in Pennsylvania, he was excited to be exonerated, and he was focused on being exonerated until like the plea deal and when he got exonerated in Idaho. So so there's a massive, like I can maybe like with like the looks, like with like the long face and the prominent nose, I can understand why maybe like people can see like the similarities with Brian and Ted Bundy's, but personality wise, they just do not like. There's no difference personality wise that I have seen personally, because obviously, like he passed before I was born. So again, I don't know. So
well, I mean, I think what I was hearing, and I don't know if it was where you were going with it, is there was a couple of things that I picked up on, differences between sociopaths and narcissistic personality disorder, but also I think there's a bit of a misconception of narcissistic personality disorder, in particular with and the reason I'm bringing it up is because you talked about like Koberger doesn't seem to have those kind of narcissistic tendencies. One of the things that I feel like a lot of people miss with narcissism is most people, when they hear narcissism, they think of grandiose narcissism, which is a person who wants to be the center of attention. Not every narcissist is a grandiose narcissist, and so it doesn't mean that just because. So first of all, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Koberger is a narcissist. What I'm saying is just the lack of his wanting to be in the spotlight doesn't mean he's not a narcissist, because narcissism can present in many different ways. It doesn't mean you want to be the center of attention. That's kind of a misnomer with people thinking that narcissism is always grandiose narcissism. But so does Kohberger feel that he's better than other people, that he's smarter than other people, that he's whatever? I don't know. I don't know enough about Kohberger on a personal level to say whether or not he's got some kind of narcissistic personality disorder or not. But it is interesting because I do study things about like the similarities or the differences between sociopaths and narcissists, and there's some overlap and there's some differences. It's an interesting topic, but I guess all I have to say for thoughts on that is I wouldn't. Again, I'm not saying I think Kohberger is a narcissist, but I wouldn't necessarily say that because Kohberger doesn't want, because it's pretty clear in the Idaho 4 case that Kohberger doesn't want the center of attention. I mean, he wouldn't even talk to people. He's made no public appearances. He's not wanted to talk about anything. He's not a Ted Bundy kind of guy who ate up the spotlight and always wanted to be on TV and wanted to share his thing. Like, he's not that. That doesn't, however, mean that he doesn't necessarily have narcissistic personality disorders, because, again, it doesn't always present as grandiose. So if he thinks he's superior than everybody, that would be a different kind of story. But
yeah, and another thing too, Claire and everybody there, and it's funny, I was just reading about this recently. Within every disorder, every type of personality disorder, there are types. So they have it broken down. Yeah. So for example, I was just reading a thing about psychopathy in a textbook, and so you have like high functioning people, and then you have people that their life is a mess, right? So and that goes for sociopaths and psychopaths, and I'm sure narcissists too, because all personality disorders have multiple types. Absolutely. And so you'll have someone like, perfect example, Rex Heuermann, very high functioning,
absolutely,
yeah. And now Ted Bundy's a weird one, and I don't think it's any mistake that Ted Bundy was such a high profile guy, because he was high functioning in certain ways, right, with school, but then when you learn about him, like, he was also a mess in other ways, and so this is what they always talk about with people with personality disorders. There's certain personality disorders where people tend to not be high functioning, like borderline personality disorder. Those people can be high functioning, but a lot of times there's constant chaos in their life. So they may hold a really high position in a career, but their personal life is a total mess. So they might be high functioning in one part of their life. Like Ted Bundy was high functioning in certain parts educationally. He was pretty high functioning, went to law school, but relationships and stuff, but Rex Heuermann was obviously high functioning, and even on some level in his personal life, because he was friends with people. Like, he was social on some level, that he was able to interact with people. And he had relationships with people in law enforcement and business and so on, and golfing, whatever. So it's definitely true that there are different levels of that stuff. And like, I've met people that I'm like, something is off about that person. But yet they have a really good job, and they're well spoken, but there's this something that's like, I don't know, man. It's just like a weird, you can see, if you know how to pay attention to it, you see it. You're like, Dad, something's off about that person. And it's hard to pin it down. Like, they have a really dark side? Because some people have a really dark side that you just, they hide it really well.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And same with autism, Brian, from what I've heard, he was diagnosed with autism, and he seems to be he with being in a PhD program, he's obviously to the point where he is very a competent person to live out live alone and be capable of living on his own, at least for a few months, like away from his, like on the other side of the country. I've been there myself. Like it's hard, but like but autism is a spectrum, and so it's like I know that like autism is like has like 3 spectrums or whatever, and one of my best friends, they are autistic, but they are like in grad school to become a librarian and all that. So it's just like, but I have also seen like in public going to like national parks and all that, and seeing parents with their autistic children with different levels and on the spectrum. They like, and I have like family members who have traits with that, and it's like with narcissistic personalities are just like covert narcissism and all that. So it's definitely all that. So
yeah.
Claire, I just wanted to say one last thing about South Florida real quick. One of the things I noticed, I was only there for a year and a half. I only lived there for a year and a half. And I've also lived in LA. Both have similarities. One of the things that always stood out to me in South Florida, there's a lot of predatory people down there.
Oh, 100%. So my childhood home in my hometown is 30 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. So and also in the same county as where Jeffrey Epstein had his house. So that's in the same county, in Palm Beach County. So obviously like especially in like Miami, with like how close it is to like the Caribbean, and Epstein's Island in the Caribbean is like I have family in the Fort Lauderdale area. So it's I get it 100%. My dad spent most of his like a good portion of his childhood in Miami, like in the 70s, but it's gotten a lot worse since then. And my dad's first job offer right out of med school was in Miami, but my mom was like, absolutely not, we're not going down to Miami. So they ended up settling somewhere like in South Florida, where like, but it's just like there is, but they like my dad drove like his commute was like an hour from their house and where they like our my childhood home where they grew up, where I grew up. So yeah, it's the like child like the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, all of that horrible stuff in South Florida is absolutely insane. So but the thing is that like with like in the little bubble of like being the daughter of a doctor, is like I grew up in this very privileged bubble, so I didn't really see that until I went to high school, when I went to public school. So like from going to like being in South Florida with a private school to going to North Florida in a better like school, like public school system, I didn't really understand until I went to public school with like a different like the high school I went to, my school district was like a complete like wide range. My high school had a wide range of like socioeconomic like groups. So like I didn't really like have my eyes open until until I was 14, when I went to my freshman year of high school, which I'm very grateful for. Until like I'm glad I at least as a child saw that before I became an adult. So it's like, yeah, it's definitely like having that like the having that like experience where like, okay, like I know where like I finally got to learn where like the red flags are, and seeing, especially with like moving to different parts of the United States and experiencing like working with different people from across the country and going across the world and working and seeing a different culture where they don't speak English, with going overseas and all that. I got to see completely different things, and now at 24 I got to see, and now I'm like, I see it differently, whether like compared to people my age who've stayed in their hometowns and who don't understand that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think to kind of go back to your point, I think another thing we need to understand too is, even if, like in the case with Brian Koberger, if he was on the spectrum, if he was autistic, or even if he had MPD, narcissistic personality, those things don't mean that you're a killer, right? So I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't be a killer, but because you don't act and behave in certain ways that quote unquote some people consider normal, that doesn't mean that you're a killer. Many people have tendencies on the spectrum or whatever that lead perfectly normal lives and never have any intention to hurt somebody. So that's the main thing to keep in mind, is like, when we're thinking about these different people and whether or not they have certain mental conditions, those mental conditions themselves don't correlate with murder, right? So they can, lots of people have those conditions and don't kill somebody. So,
and you have to take out of, just don't listen to mainstream media with the nonsense,
right?
Because I mean, we don't know his official diagnosis, if it is like the Asperger's type thing. So I have a family member that has that, and as from what we know with BK, if they're telling the truth, he has had some prior people who have done interviews who claim to have known him or were at parties with him, and he was interested in girls, and he was interested in so this whole thing that he's this introvert and he doesn't have connection to people, and it's not true. It's all nonsense. All lies.
In the first like few weeks of like after his arrest, I was just like, in a way, kind of like going off of like what mainstream media was saying, because I was then, but like when he was arrested, like I was still active duty, so I was like and like when he was arrested, I was on leave back home with my parents, and like seeing like, and I remember looking at his like first like mugshot with the turtle suit, and I'm just like, okay, I guess I can't wait to see what they have against him. And then then I was back in away from leave, and I remember reading the PCA while at work, and I'm just like this does not make any sense. But
so, well, I think I mean mainstream media, when it comes to Koberger, mainstream media has always tried to paint him in a way that makes him look guilty because of the creepy factor, right? And one of a classic example, they comb through all the pictures of Koberger through his whole history and find the creepiest photo they can of him, and then act like that's the way he looks all the time or presents all the time. And even the turtle suit thing was designed to try to create a certain narrative in the public mind to make him look like a killer. These are things that mainstream media does all the time. By the way, I gotta laugh about Stephen Wolf's comment about what pisses me off is people who say it's all good in the hood. The hood's fucked up.
Stephen Wolf, come with me to the Bronx. I'm going there next Friday.
By the way, is the Bronx worse than Harlem, or is Harlem worse than the Bronx?
So Harlem is
fancy now,
much better.
Harlem's
there's like
they clean up Harlem.
There's an IHOP on the corner. It's not like it was years ago. Central Harlem is there crime, but I would say East New York, which is mostly known as like kind of like a central area. JJ knows where it is, like Brownsville and
rough.
That area. that area is rough, and the Bronx. That's what I keep telling everyone. The Bronx,
is
burning.
not...
The Bronx
Dude,
is burning.
I got a good Bronx story for you.
Well, let me real quick. Let's. I just wanted to say thank you, U.S. Claire, for coming up. And we're going to let you go at the moment, but thank you so much for coming up and starting the conversation about NPD and sociopaths and all of that. It was a very good conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
I did want to. I did want to answer. Yeah, I wanted to answer a comment that was on here, and I don't usually answer stuff like this. It wasn't kind of directed at me, but. I did want to answer because from my perspective, just to, I saw it on here. So, Stephen Wolf, you made this comment here about George Floyd died of fentanyl. We have to agree with that or whatever. So, I like to bring this up and not getting into a whole political thing.
Too late.
Because I've been involved in police department for a long time. That case single-handedly changed policing in America, that one case. And what I can tell you is, yes, that may be true ultimately, that George Floyd, he may have died of fentanyl. That may be the ultimate thing that, people looking at the autopsy. But what I can tell you is that officer, Derek Chauvin, however the hell you say his name,
Chauvin,
is a piece of garbage. Okay, absolute garbage. He had his knee on George Floyd for 8 minutes and 48 seconds.
Yeah,
that is a long time. I've been involved in hundreds and hundreds of arrests. I've been involved with all kinds of people who have fought. Some of them, hate us. Some of them are on drugs. I've had all kinds of people on some kind of cocaine, psychosis, or they don't know what the hell they're doing. 8 minutes and 48 seconds to have your knee on someone and the guy's basically passed out on the ground.
Right.
Was beyond the scope of what is imaginable. That, I've said all the time, like, the number one job in policing is to preserve life. That is our job. Obviously things happen, people fight, we have a firearm, so someone's firing at us, things like that, things occur. This was a completely avoidable situation. And from my perspective, watching, what I basically saw was that it was the crowd on the side basically baited this officer in, and he couldn't handle it. He couldn't deal with, they're telling him to leave him alone or whatever, because he somehow got into his mind, no, he's in charge. He's the He's the
I'm
senior
not going to have you
officer.
tell me what to do.
No one's going to tell me what to do. Well, shame on him. That is not our job. Number one job is to preserve life. And I had to address that. I saw that comment. It bothers me to no end. And some people may think, oh, but I'm in law enforcement. Why aren't I back? He's wrong. I watched that video numerous times. There's no way I could see that. There are many things that could have been done in that situation. Possibly, maybe George Floyd would be alive today. It doesn't matter. I see all this stuff like, oh, he was arrested 56 times before and whatever. Sure, he's still a human being. He's a human being.
Right.
And
when you're crying for your mother while you can't breathe. Yeah,
exactly. It was very hard to watch these things. And shame on anyone that will, I know it might be difficult, as people say, like, the blue back the blue. No, I'm not backing it. That's these guys, they were wrong. And the other officers that were there and stood by and allowed it to happen as well. I mean, you can hear, you're right there. I've fought with people. I've been involved where we're fighting with someone. Once the handcuffs go on and you're on the ground, you turn the person over. You turn them on the side. You do it like immediately. This is it's
right. There's other ways to subdue them without suffocating them to death, essentially. But
yeah,
and a lot of, and the thing is that, like, you have a lot of different types of personalities, the spectrum of that among cops. And I don't know if you guys saw this video. It's not political at all, but I'm one you might have. Not that long ago, maybe like 6 months ago or something, that there were a couple of 3 or 4 cops, and there was a guy. He was kind of a bigger guy. They were trying to like talk to him and calm him down, and he started walking towards one of the cops who was obviously a rookie. It was pretty clear, and I read afterwards that he was a rookie, and he shot the guy, and the guy was unarmed. And the guy who shot the police officer, he literally started having a panic attack. Like, I mean, a serious panic attack. Like, and the reality is, some people that may be emotionally unstable slip through the cracks. I mean, it happens in every job.
It does.
Yeah.
It happens in every job. I mean, you have people with different personality types that handle stress differently. And it's just, in my opinion, like I've talked about this before. My cousin was he's retired MIPD, and he was, his whole career. He's a Brooklyn guy. He worked his entire career in New York, and in the worst, he worked everywhere, and in South Bronx, the worst areas. But he's the calmest guy in the world. He's also 6'5", about 300 pounds. So he probably feels a little more comfortable walking around than most people do. But he's the calmest guy. Like, you can't rattle this guy. Like, he has seen everything. I'm not telling you anything. You don't know.
Yeah, right.
He's seen everything and never gets rattled.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just tell you this, my South Bronx story. So I hung out a lot in New York, including, I told you guys, City Island. I used to go to City Island with my buddy who grew up there.
Yeah.
Very different than the South Bronx, right?
Yeah. City Island has some good areas.
Very different.
That's nice. Yeah.
When I was in college, one of my wrestling teammates, his brother owned a construction company that had government contracts, and one of the contracts was to gut the buildings in the South Bronx, the burnt out buildings,
right?
And like just literally strip everything out, all the sheetrock, everything. It was like demolition kind of work, and he would be like, "Hey, my brother wants to know if you guys, so this is the whole wrestling team, want to work, make some extra money with my brother." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I need extra money." So this was on our break. So we were on break. So we didn't have wrestling practice. For a week, we worked in the South Bronx in the burnt out buildings. And for people who don't, and this is probably 89 or 90.
Ooh,
if you don't know,
that's a rough time.
if people out there, if you don't know what the South Bronx looked like in the early 90s, again, pre-Giuliani, I have seen some shit even at that point in my life, because my family's from Brooklyn. I am not a fancy area when I lived there. And I went there, and I'm probably a little more desensitized to that than like most people would be, but it was scary. The South Bronx, that whole, the Bronx is burning, that ain't no lie. That didn't come, that someone didn't just make that up out of thin air, because we were there
every week now.
Now granted, you're young, you're cocky, you're wrestlers, you're like, oh yeah. We would walk to the there was like one little place that wasn't burnt to the ground. It was like a bodega, basically, you get coffee and stuff. So we would go there to get our coffee, and we would walk there, and man, let me tell you, when you're in a place like that and you're not from there, people know it from 10 blocks away. It is that was the roughest place I've ever been in my entire life. I don't think third world countries are that bad.
Well, yeah, it's definitely an experience.
Well, you know, DA doesn't know. Robin might know.
It's an experience.
It's worse than you think, I'm saying.
Yes.
I couldn't emphasize it enough how crazy it was. Literally blocks as far as you could see of burnt out buildings. And I mean, it was I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is New York. I'm a native New Yorker too, and very proud of it. I couldn't believe that existed in the 90s in New York.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that too is that, obviously everyone knows the New York Yankees, right? Yankees.
Fuck the Yankees. Sorry.
And
I had to get that out.
The Yankees,
Tourette's,
like 1 block away from Yankee Stadium, it's like a war zone.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. You would think
I've been there.
You would think right now, by now, you think with all the money that they, bring to the air, you would think it would be built up. Like it's such a waste, a literal waste.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
DA, man, I'd love to go to New York City with you, man.
Yeah.
Oh, look out, New York.
Although, Manhattan is very different than it used to be, man. It's like, there's crime everywhere. Like all the cities, like Denver is having a lot of problems.
Sure.
There's a lot of problems, but like, what I always tell people about New York City, because I spent a lot of time in Manhattan, because I lived in Bayonne, right out, right out there. And I used to go in the city all the time.
I like to cruise. That's where I like to go on my cruise ships, right?
Yeah. and it was a fun city, man. The one thing I'll always say for anybody out there who has never partied in New York City, you could be at a bar by Madison Square Garden. At least when I was younger, this is how it was. You could be hanging out in like a rooftop bar, like, like nice, like regular, business people and stuff, like after work, whatever. And you could meet up with people you never met before. And next thing you know, you're on the Lower East Side at some bar with a band playing, and like, it's crazy. It's totally different crowd. And then they could go, oh, we're heading back over to this place. You could then go to the Upper East Side and be at like a trendy bar on the Upper East Side or Upper West Side. And the environment can change just like that in New York City, man. You never knew and if shit was open all night, you never knew where you were going to end up. It was the most fun city I've ever been to.
Yeah. City never sleeps.
Sleeps.
I worked a long time. Actually, my whole career as a sergeant, I worked in Harlem and Washington Heights. I mean, if you want to see some crazy stuff, there's a reason why there's a barber shop on every corner in Washington Heights. You want to get your hair
I've been
done?
there. I've been to Washington Heights, man. I had a friend who lived up there, and I used to give him a ride home because I worked at a bar in New York City on Hudson Street. And one of my coworkers lived up there, and I drove him home one night, and it's wild. DA, I'm telling you, man, I'm going back in August
to New York.
Yeah, I'm going back for a family thing in August. I don't know the date yet, but I'll let you know, because I don't know New York like I used to know New York, because I always lived very, very, very close to New York City. So I spent a lot of time in New York City and worked in New York City at clubs and stuff. Man,
this guy's making me nuts with these dates.
Marty McFlizzle.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. The numerology. Look, I will say this. to DA's point, I'm not a numerology guy. I know, I understand it. I know what the thing, the 33, I know about that. But I don't pay attention to it as much. But there is no question there's a lot of fuckery afoot. That's for sure. I don't think anybody can deny that.
Yeah, I've seen a few news stories where numerology does seem to be purposely implanted into the news story.
Yeah,
that's a whole different thing than yeah. But anyways, that's a whole different thing. That's a show for another day.
Right.
And it's a show. That's my show.
That is your show, and you got to invite me over to your show so I can talk on your show about weird shit like implanted numbers in news stories to let people know who's in control of the narrative.
So, do we have JJ? Do you have kind of a potential date yet or no?
Yeah, I'm next weekend. I'm gonna record, if I can, more than one episode, and then that way I have like one, to release, because obviously I can't. I'll have to do them where as many as I can, and I have more free time coming in the near future where I can backlog some things. I can tell you the geoengineering one is going to be my masterpiece, because where I live,
I almost think that you can't do that in one show. That you probably
that's going to be a common thread. I'm not going to do like one show only about one thing. I'm going to talk about different things as things come up. But I'll make sure, like I said, I'm a man of my word. Everybody is going to be on. We'll pick stuff, and we're going to talk about stuff. We're just going to talk about stuff, and where, find a thread, and then wherever it goes. But everything that I will talk about is stuff that people can verify on their own.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
All right. I need a sniff check from you New Yorkers. So I was double checking when JJ was saying August-ish to see, because it's a lifelong bucket list thing to see Les Miserables, which I'm not a super big play musical kind of guy, but Les Miserables is my absolute favorite musical that I would love to see, and I've always wanted to see it on Broadway in New York. However, when I looked it up, they're not playing Broadway; they're playing Radio City Music Hall for 2 weeks coming in August. So, give me the lowdown. What's the difference between seeing a Broadway musical and a Radio City Music Hall musical?
There's no difference.
Yeah.
It's just a different part of town.
Venue.
I mean,
it's a different venue. Different venue.
The production value will probably be about the same.
Oh yeah, Radio City, dude.
Radio City is a main
big
place.
Time.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the like the really elite shows.
I walked right past Radio City Music Hall when I was.
Radio City Music Hall. I mean, they've hosted like MTV Music Awards and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, dude, I mean, one of the things that I miss, I don't know. Hey, one is New York still a late night city?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know. I haven't hung out there in a while. It was always like you could go to a bar. I would leave my apartment at like 11 p.m. and get into the city. What I would do is, this is when you could, I would park. There was a parking garage on Bleecker, an underground parking garage. And this is how crazy, this is so you know how long ago it was. It was $10 to park.
Yeah.
So I would go in this underground parking garage on Bleecker, and I would just, I'd leave my car there, and I would start out in the Village. I would grab a few beers at one of the bars on Bleecker or whatever. And then I would just, I was working at a music club in the Village. So I had some friends that lived downtown, and I would be like, hey, meet up with me. This is when like no cell phones. Like you literally had to go to a payphone and call somebody, meet me at this place. And then we would go out all night, man. And bars would close at like 3 or 4, depending if it's a bar or a club. Bars typically 3, clubs could go till 6. And then there were after hours bars that opened at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I don't know if that still goes on or not.
So you could just be nonstop hammered.
Yeah.
But the thing, you could get food any time of the night though. So like you could get dinner, then go out to bars, and then literally after being out all night, go to a diner and get
go to breakfast.
Killer food. And it was great, man. I really
that's what my time in Washington Heights. So we would chase the drug dealers all over Washington Heights. Make some overtime, and then we would head to the bar. And
then yeah, man. It's a DA. I don't know how much you got to investigate New York City when you were there, but because I worked at a music club that was like a pretty. I worked at the Bottom Line. It was a famous music club. Downtown. We were just peons, just, dudes that worked in a bar, but a lot of connected people from like the music industry and stuff would be in there quite a bit. And they would tell us about stuff going on. Yeah. They'd be like, oh, there's a music showcase at whatever the place was. Mm-hmm. We can get you a pass. So this is like for industry people. Like you couldn't just walk in off the street. So these dudes, like A&R guys and stuff would, let's go hook up the boys at the Bottom Line. And they would come and they'd be like, yeah, we're doing a showcase over at whatever the bar was downtown. And we would get passes to go to these music showcases, like really cool shit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say. I think I would love to go back to New York. Like I said, it's a big thing that I'd like to do. I'd really like to go back. I would really love to see Les Mis. Rob, it'd be cool if I can also make it a work trip where I have to go back for something. I mean, we got Luigi Mangioni's case out there still. I haven't looked for what date might be important. I don't know when I see it now. I know he's got a May date coming up, but we'll be at CrimeCon in May. But he's got a June date coming up as well. But I don't think those are big ones. I'm waiting for the actual trial to start. But again, in America, things don't go to trial anymore. You just plead. Right. So that one I think will go to trial. I do think that one's going to go.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to plead. No.
But most don't. The odds are they're not going to go to trial.
You're talking about Luigi?
Yeah.
I'll bet you it doesn't go to trial.
Yeah, you don't think it's going to go to trial? I think it's going to go to trial, but you don't think it's going to go to trial?
No. He works for the CIA. They're not going to put him up on a trial.
Well, you should know. You should know.
You would know.
I will be shocked if it goes to trial.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Shocked. We'll see. I mean, we're not going to put any money on it, but we'll see. Yeah. So, anyways,
money on it, man. How confident are you in your thing?
Yeah, I might buy you a burger in New York or something. All right. Well, let's go ahead and do a close for tonight. I was thinking about playing us out with a song, but I was going to play us out with a song we haven't played for a long time, but we haven't talked any Idaho 4 tonight. So now I'm thinking that song's the wrong choice. So I don't know. Maybe we'll not play out with a song. I don't know. But I want to do Around the Horn with our panel that are here tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. So let's go JJ11, Robin, and myself for closing this evening. It was a good conversation. JJ, what do you got for closing?
All right. Thanks, TA, Robin, 11, Dennisons, the awesome mods. Yeah, the weekends, the weekends are a time to let loose. And my camera, you guys noticed my face turned red in the middle of the stream.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. There's some funky shit going on with my camera. It's like, it starts out normal. And then by the end of the stream, I look like the heat miser. My face is all red. Like I didn't do that. Okay. So what I wanted to say is I'm not going to do my normal public service announcement. I'm gonna do a different public service announcement tonight.
Oh no.
For everybody. I'm gonna say that everybody, regardless of what your political ideology is, needs to realize that we're all in this together, whether we like it or not.
Yep.
So, and I bring this up because I see comments in the chat. I pay attention.
Yeah.
And the government is not going to help us. The corruption's not going away. I saw the comments. That's not going anywhere. So, regardless what you may or may not believe about the government, it doesn't even matter. We have to live with each other. And if people don't wake up and realize that we have to, well, whether you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
My friend, yep.
We are in this together. So we don't have to agree on everything, but we have to realize that we're the ones that are living under this blanket of fuckery. And the sooner people realize that, the sooner we can fix it. I don't think it's easy. I'm not trying to put it out there like it's easy. But is it easy now? What's happening in the world? Is that easy? Is everything that's going on in the world easy right now?
Right.
So that's my PSA for tonight. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And one, what do you got for closing?
Great discussion as always. I'm sure next week we'll have a lot more on Idaho 4 as more and more interviews and more things, keep popping up, coming out. I'm hoping or documents. I'm hoping that because we're not gonna hear until it's just gonna come out that it's done. I'm hoping that there is some kind of finality to whatever this leak investigation. And I know some people are probably like, "Oh, there is no leak investigation." I think there is. But we will see. But we're not going to know about it until it's finished, if that is the case. So, thanks to all the mods, all the everyone that comes each and every night. It's good to have some side discussions, and just to add on a little bit to what JJ said there. And people in power don't are not so willingly to give up that power. They do everything they can to keep that power. So some of the threads and information and things that we talk about and we give to you guys, you don't have to necessarily just take our word for it. You do, and I almost say don't take our word for it. Do your own research. Look things up, and you will see that this is it's a common thread in history. To divide is to conquer, right? So the more and more they keep us divided, and there's so many different examples, we touch on all the time in the arts, where you have musicians that tend to get extremely popular. And why is it that they so easily get, I wouldn't say easily, but what is the threat? Because something like music, or someone that is able to bring people together, they don't want that. Music unites people, and they don't like that. So they'll what their way, and we touched on it. I'm not saying that it's with every artist, but there is something there. The whole thing about the using some kind of variation of MK Ultra, and that whole thing of trying to control people with drugs and all of that. There is something to it. though. Just look at the history and look what has gone on. Not everything is always as it seems. And as Lee he's said it, I think, a few times just in the past week or so. He's mentioned it. The news, they even they make it they make it known that they don't even it's not even like the real news anymore. It's an entertainment. Like, they don't even have to. They're not obligated to say the truth. So just be careful what you listen to, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Never be afraid. With that, I will leave you with my movie quote. Oh, and one other quick thing before that. I guess Robin will touch on tomorrow. We may be having a show. I guess she'll put something out. She'll tell you. At first I didn't think I was gonna make it, but there is a good chance that I will be here tomorrow night, or maybe I might be little late. I will find out, but probably a good chance that there will be. We will have something going on, and we can continue the JonBenet Ramsey stuff that we've been discussing. All right. So this is from the mid-90s. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. Every month at the quarter moon, there'll be a monsoon in your lagoon. Well, a little rain never hurt anybody. Yeah, but a lot can kill you. You think that mosquitoes, monkeys, and lions are bad? That is just the beginning. I've seen things you've only seen in your nightmares, things you can't even imagine, things you can't even see. There are things that hunt you in the night. Then something screams. Then you hear them eating, and you hope to God that you're not dessert. Afraid? You don't even know what afraid is. You would not last 5 minutes without me.
I don't
see Amanda.
I don't recognize. Oh, is it Jumanji? Yeah, it is.
Yep.
I haven't even
Amanda's
seen
band.
Yeah.
Good job, Amanda.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I had no clue. I hadn't even seen. I don't think I've even seen Jumanji. So
that's a funny comment.
Long time ago, I saw it.
Robin, what do you?
Well, I just wanted to put this up here for everyone to see because, we love you guys coming out live. Absolutely. But I'm telling you, our replay crew lately has been just crushing the comments, and we just absolutely love it. So thank you for that. If you can't catch us live and you're watching us after the fact, we appreciate that more than you know. And I just wanted to make something to just let you guys know how special you are to us, as well as all of our regular live crew, and hopefully some new folks that are, finding us, so keep it up, guys. We appreciate it so much. And, our amazing mods for keeping the chat happy and, moving for everybody. We appreciate you guys so very much. So yeah, tomorrow night, hopefully, we will be keep tuned in, whether you're on Discord or Facebook or whatever it is. Hopefully we will be having our continuation of the JonBenet Ramsey case. So we're right now working, finishing up the timeline, which has been fascinating. We've been learning some stuff that we either didn't know or didn't remember. So if you're interested in that case, stay tuned. And, it's been fascinating going through that case again. So, and thanks for coming out. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
All right. And for some reason, I can't seem to get you off stage. So I guess there you go. Now I got you off stage. I don't know. I couldn't do it. All right. Thank you all for coming to another Crimes After Dark. Appreciate it very much. we'll see you again tomorrow night actually, I won't see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's my night off. But as Robin was saying, we got the other thing going, and I'll have the night off. Thank you so much for watching the show, supporting the channel, and all the things you guys do. The replay crew that always comes out strong and leaves some comments and supports. That's very, very important to us. We will catch you guys again very shortly. Have a great evening.
Good night, everybody.